I never wanted to breastfeed. I didn't even consider it. I'd not been brought up around breastfeeding. It wasn't really on my radar, breastfeeding. But when I got pregnant, which was a big surprise, I wanted to breastfeed for bonding purposes. I kind of told myself when I was pregnant in my head that this physiological intervention-free home birth that I'd planned led to breastfeeding. So then when I didn't get the home birth intervention-free, that threw a massive spanner in the works, physically and emotionally. I wouldn't say we were feeding comfortably until he was probably 3.5 months. Posterior tongue tie. He hadn't been latching properly, and there was just no milk transferring whatsoever. I'm not somebody who lets something go for 3 days without kind of clocking it, and I'm so surprised now that I did. That I was putting him on and thinking, he must be getting something. I was thinking, well, it's only day 3. Of course he can't do it fantastically yet. I were waiting for something to just kind of click, and then he would start feeding properly. On day 3, the home birth midwives referred us to the infant feeding team. And in my zombie state, I was thinking, well, that'll be a while. But it wasn't. She rang me the same day, this wonderful lady from the infant feeding team. And she said, how much do you want to breastfeed? And I said, a lot. And she said, good, because you will be able to breastfeed. I'm going to get you to be able to breastfeed. And I was just so grateful to have that support of somebody saying, right, we are going to do this. I know everything's been so uncertain for the past, week, but we will be able to do this, and I'm going to help you. It was like somebody just picking me up and hugging me. I counted the days till those appointments where we would get help, and my partner were counting the days as well. Like the day before the appointment, I'd be feeding him in agony, and it was agony that, I had a really, really painful labour. But there were parts of breastfeeding that were more painful because my nipples were bleeding. The day before an appointment, I'd be feeding him, like tapping my leg, trying to get through. And, my partner would be saying to me, we're going to help tomorrow, just one more day. Day 3, where we went to meet the infant feeding team, she put me on the pumping plan, which I did. But we had, so I started expressing milk that day, really. So by that night, I had enough milk to start giving him expressed milk in a bottle. And, even some midwives said to me, you have given this everything. You gave the birth everything, and now you're giving this everything. And if it's still not, we're still not getting there, Hannah, maybe it's time to stop for you. Now thinking, well, no, I'm carrying on for me. I could see myself 6 months into the future really depressed because the birth had gone horribly, and then I didn't breastfeed either. And I thought, that is why I have to keep going, because I'm doing it for myself in 6 months' time, not now. They were holding a breastfeeding event in Centenary Square in Bradford, and Vinny was 2-week-old. My partner Jamie had just gone back to work, and that was my first day out of the house without Jamie. So I made it to town on my own, which was difficult. But I got there, and they had all these tents up in Centenary Square in town, and I just walked over to them like a zombie. And they said, oh, are you here for World Breastfeeding Day? I said, yeah. I said, but we're not breastfeeding yet because it's really hard. And I sat there, and they actually got Julie and Judy from Breastfeed Together, managed to get Vinny to latch, kind of. And we had some form of feed there that day. So that's the first time I saw them all. But I knew as soon as I met them all, I thought these ladies are going to help me. We would absolutely love a hub, maybe in the city centre, where everyone can come to us, something that everybody knows about. You're giving the information when you're discharged from hospital, saying this is where all the women are go and get support from, and there's peer supporters there for breastfeeding, and the infant feeding team would come and do clinics there, for more clinical things. An accessible hub that's not kind of postcode lottery. There were times where, for my mental health, probably stopping would have been the better option for my mental health. But I'm very, to my detriment sometimes, extremely stubborn, and I wanted to power through it to get to where we are now. But there were days where stopping would have been the better option for my mental health, definitely. Now it's been really positive for my mental health because I got where we wanted to be. I got some control back over everything that was out of control in my birth. So I'm so glad we carried on, and I'm so glad I managed to. But in those days where it was particularly difficult, stopping would have been better. But I kind of knew that I would get there if I kept going.